Greetings everyone, and welcome back to OverPlay, the only video game overview show shot in the form of a Let's Play. And while there's probably a good reason for that, we don't have time to talk about it today, because we have to discuss The Strange Brigade, a group of adventurers circa 1930s, dropped in the land of mysterious Egypt, hunting for any and all undead and potentially evil priests and priestesses of Suteki, the Ancient. We now return to our regularly scheduled broadcast, already in progress.
From their break, our heroes resume their adventure.
And back from the wonderful announcement, we come back to review, as said, Strange Brigade. The latest game from Rebellion Entertainment, the people who brought the wonderful Zombie Army trilogy, and basically anything having to do with AD 2000. Well, this game is their latest one, and while I have mixed reviews about it, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's pretty darn nice. Not great, but definitely a good time waster. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's get into it, and let's start off with the visuals. First of all, they're really, really good, if a bit cluttered. Now, unfortunately, because of this, it doesn't lend itself well to figuring out what puzzles are meant to be done with, so I could probably mean to shoot something over there. And I was. Unfortunately, it's also based towards a more co-op nature. So one person is meant to be able to see something the other isn't, or can't, and then try and give directions. Like right there, it probably would have been better if I had somebody looking out and saying, oh, well, there's this thing over there you gotta shoot. Go ahead and shoot it. Which would be fine if people talk to each other nowadays over video games. Unfortunately, they really don't. So, you're just kind of left in the wayfare. And trying to do this review co-op would be a bit of a hassle. Now, again, there's nothing truly wrong with this game. It looks really, really good. The period effects and pieces all look wonderfully archaic, and in most cases, the occult stuff looks really, really occulty. That being said, again, the puzzles suffer for it because you really don't know what you can interact with until you get up to it, which makes adventuring kind of difficult sometimes. That being said, the gameplay is a game. Again, I hate to sound wishy-washy on this, but I've seen this type of game done better before, and unfortunately, even by the same people. As said, Rebellion is the group that brought out the Zombie Army trilogy, which is one of my favorite games. And they seem to have used the same shooting mechanics that they used for the third-person sniper system, especially with the one-shot rifles here. And they used the remaining resources to put in from the third-person action perspectives of their various other portions of the games. And while that's not a bad thing necessarily, it does feel like they could have done something a little bit different. Whoop, that was my grenade. There we go. And unfortunately, that's going to lead into a bit of a drawback with the characters. Predominantly in how there's not really a good mesh of making a difference between them. The only thing that's really different about them is that special attack that I just did, in that each one has a type of it, with this character being the most varied. The only other one that's different from what is simply a punch them back and they explode motif is the African Huntress, whose name I forget because nobody is really interesting enough to have their names remembered in this, unfortunately. And how she creates a bit of a firewall that will hit multiple enemies at once. The rest you just kind of have to catch as catch can. Now, while that's not a huge deal because you can swap amulets out for whatever kind of power you want later on, it does become a bit of an issue early on in trying to create a distinct characteristic, which I find myself wondering why even bother having these kind of characteristics in the first place if they're all going to be so samey. Just allow people to pick whatever character they want and have them go to town. Now, from there, it's, as I said, pretty much the same kind of shooter stuff you would think of in something like a third-person, occult-based, kill the zombies, and that's all you gotta do. Unfortunately, there's no real tactics to them either. It's just shoot until the thing's dead and get the job done like that. And you got, there we go. Ow! Stop hitting me! Now, fortunately, on the easier modes, that's not too much of a problem. However, if you want to try and get an actual challenge going, that's where things become difficult, because you're very quickly overwhelmed by a horde mode. Again, this game was meant to be a co-op mission. So, while I'm not unhappy about such things, it really does promote good teamworkship, which is a word that I just invented. You do have a certain problem when you want to try and play online with anybody who doesn't want to talk to you. But enough harping about that. As far as the rest of the controls go, the camera work is slidey, which is rather interesting because as it is third person, you're unfortunately tied towards your aiming and your free aim camera are basically the same. Adjust one and you adjust the other, which is difficult if you don't want a slidey camera to be in the third person, but you do want a more quick-based aiming. If I choose to upgrade this version, it becomes much quicker doing this, and it ends up giving me 6, so there's not too much I can do about that.
Extra ammo. Good show.
As far as the story goes, I saved it for the last because, honestly, it's the lowest point. As I said, you're between 4, maybe 5, and 7 adventurers, depending on when you watch this and how many of the characters have been released, as far as playing-wise. And you can... there we go. Play any of them with their different, in quotes there, powers. So, it really just becomes a question of whose face do you like more? And you're on a mission to stop the evil priestess Suteki from taking over something in 1930s Egypt. If that sounds vague and confusing, don't worry, it's only because it really is. And unfortunately, that's all you're given as far as plot. Run around, shoot the bad guys, beat the evil queen. And that's it. Which is unfortunate, because you could try and really create something neat with this. Instead, it just kind of ends up feeling like something that they decided, it's going to be a niche market, just do something okay with it. And while, yeah, this game is okay, almost said movie. While this game, I did it again. While this game is okay, again, it relies very heavily on puzzle-solving problems. Predominantly meant to be done with a group. And as I said, while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, it does create a bit of an issue at some points when trying to do certain puzzles outright. So, am I doing this one first? Nope. Okay. So it's that one, that one, and that one. Got it. Trial and Error is the name of the game. And I feel like this one should have gone through a bit more trial and error. That being said, this game really does look great. It plays decently enough that I would easily place it in a lineup of games I would like to play, along with something like Left 4 Dead. And as a result, it's a ton of fun. That being said, if you don't have anybody to really play with, I would consider this a moderate time waster at best. Which means that all in all, this game comes down to a rental, unfortunately. But these are just my opinions, and as always, opinions are subject. What did you guys think? Have you played it? Have you not? Will you try to, now that you've heard some random person on the internet's opinion? Leave a comment down below, and if you enjoyed what you saw, consider leaving a like and give a bit of a description to a friend and tell them that this was a lot of fun. Either way, we'll see you back here next time, everybody. Laters.